We'll be underway here shortly for our last round of Swiss action before we make our cut to the top 8. Make our predictions with our brackets, of course, and get ready for all that stuff.
Mardu is typically very good at pummeling creature decks. There's so much removal, and because you have Crackling Doom, it's hard for something to sneak through the cracks that you can't kill. So this should be a solid matchup for Matthew.
A Temple to start things off here for both players. Temple of Triumph for Czech, Temple of Epiphany for Winn. Czech will draw a card. Follow up with a Bloodstained Mire and pass the turn back over to Winn. Winn will take a draw step. He'll play a Mystic Monastery. And Tyler Winn, former Open Series champion last year when we were in Knoxville. Matthew Czech, an unknown name here in the Chicago area, but with a win, we'll have a better idea of who he is. He'll have an Open Series top 8 to his name. He'll search up a swamp.
Removal suite here in Matthew's deck, a Murderous Cut, an ultimate price at Kolaghan's Command, 4 Draconic Roar, 4 copies of Crackling Doom.
No shortage. We'll see what he has on turn 3, because he is playing 4 copies of Goblin Rabblemaster as well. Rabblemaster, really a card we haven't seen much of this weekend at all.
And it could be a card that's poised for a big of an uptick, because we just haven't seen that much in the way of cheap red removal through this tournament. It's been a lot of Obzon, a lot of weird decks, and this card is extremely potent if people are playing just with Heroes Downfalls as removal.
You know, it's really interesting. Brian Bronduin, I think, put it really well when people were kind of discussing Chandra. And it's a card I'm a big fan of. You know, Brian said, you know, if Chandra lives, then it's really good. But he says, you know, if Goblin Rabblemaster lives, it's really good. And that's kind of the same situation.
Yeah, exactly.
They're both similar cards. If they live, they'll win the game on their own. But Rabblemaster will certainly win the game a lot faster than Chandra will.
And there's a lot of spots where your Rabblemaster dies, but at least there's a 1/1 token left over.
Yep.
I think when Rabblemaster rotates out, it's going to give an opportunity for Chandra to see some play. But as it stands, they're a little bit similar in functionality, but I think Rabblemaster is a superior card.
Rabblemaster after combat there for Tyler. He's going to probably look to try to block with this thing if he's given the opportunity. We'll see if that situation presents itself, as Czech is tapping some mana already. He has a Crackling Doom, so that will not be the case. That will take care of the Rabblemaster. Winn will have to take 2, and he's going to take a lot more than that in just a second.
And this is the kind of spot where Jeskai aggro struggles. A lot of times it doesn't get started until the 3rd turn of the game. Tyler, with 2 copies of Wild Slash in his deck, had an opportunity to break serve against that Rabblemaster, didn't have it, and now way behind. And this deck's not that great at playing catch-up from this kind of position.
Winn already down to 11. He'll play another Mystic Monastery. There's a Soulfire Grandmaster past that turn back. Czech will draw. Battlefield Forge is the land for the turn. He can start going to the skies with something like Stormbreath Dragon if he has it. Here's 3 men, another copy of Crackling Doom. Winn will take 2 more. Czech making this game look pretty easy.
Yeah. A cheap threat that doesn't get killed back up by some removal is what this deck is often trying to do. And when that cheap threat is Goblin Rabblemaster, doesn't get killed, the rest of this is just cleanup.
Yeah. Winn already down to 1. He'll play an island. Here's 4 mana. Copy of Ojtai's Command.
So I assume we're gaining 4, drawing a card here, hoping to find Wild Slash. Okay.
Maybe bring this, gain 4, bring this back.
Sure.
Mayhem drawn Wild Slash for the turn. Looks like he does have Wild Slash in hand. Kill that, gain 2 life. Assuming that Czech does not have removal spell, which it appears that he does. Draconic Roar.
Okay. That's a lot of stuff to have there.
Yes, it is. Yeah, now Tyler's going to concede the game since Czech, he had basically it all that game. Very nice draw for Matthews. He does win game number 1 here over Tyler Winn. Mardu Dragons very quickly up a game over Jeskai aggro.
You see Tyler there taking a deep breath out. Just sometimes that's just what happens.
A wise man once said that's why they give you 3.
Yep.
We'll take a look at the sideboards here. We will start with Tyler and his Jeskai aggro deck.
2 copies of Russian Cleric, 3 copies of Disdainful Stroke, 3 copies of Anger of the Gods, 2 copies of Glare of Heresy, a Negate, a Roast, an Elspeth Sun's Champion, and 2 copies of Mastery of the Unseen. I like bringing in the Anger of the Gods for this matchup. There's a lot of cheap stuff here in Matthew's deck to sweep up here. There's a lot of cards here that are okay against certain classes of threats, but not good against others. I think cards like Glare of Heresy and Negate, probably too narrow in what they can answer. I think a Russian Cleric is good at blocking some things, but Matthew can also easily overpower that. So I think you're going to see the Elspeth come in. I think you're going to see some of the removal, Anger of the Gods, and maybe Disdainful Stroke as well, counter some of Matthew's top end.
We will take a look at the sideboard here for Matthew. He's got 3 Anger of the Gods, 3 Outpost Siege, 3 Foul Tongue Invocation, 2 Bramaz, King of Rescos, a Crux of Fate, a Thoughtseize, an Elspeth, and a Duress.
There's some solid options here. I like bringing in the 2 copies of Bramaz for sure as Tyler's all red removal and maybe bringing in something like Anger of the Gods. I'm not that big of a fan of Foul Tongue Invocation against a deck with Goblin Brown Master and could have potentially other token generation, but possible Matthew wants to bring that in to answer some of the larger threats and gain a little bit of life.
Well, fair enough. Those are the options available to both players, and we'll see how they opt to sideboard as they get ready for game number 2. And while they do so, we will talk about the Star City Games Creature Collection, specifically the spring version, in which we've taken some of our game night creatures and put them on some stuff.
Yeah, you see the Kitten, the Bee, the Bunny, and the Delver of Squeakrits all available on card sleeves, playmats, and dice bags. You can head over to starcitygames.com/creature collection or head over to the dealer booth at any of our opens or any Grand Prix that we're vending at.
Pretty straightforward stuff. We'll have the summer collection coming for you soon enough. And these have been a huge hit. And that also means that we get a new pun like Delver of Squeakrits.
Yes.
For the summer. So I'm excited to find out what that will be when the summer collection does come around. Again, starcitygames.com/creature collection for more information about that as we get ready here for game number 2 between Matthew Check and Tyler Winn. Matthew Check winning game 1 very, very quickly.
Apparently, received some information here.
Okay.
Via Twitter, thank you. Matthew Check has an SCG top 8 from Return to Ravnica format.
Well, pardon me.
A couple years ago.
Maybe before my time. Who knows?
Well, you would know, right?
I guess that's
like
true.
in theory.
Was I Return to Ravnica? Was I doing coverage then?
We were probably doing a little bit on the side. I don't think either of us were full-time commentators at that point, but we probably did a couple shows.
What was good then?
Sphinx's Revelation and Thragtusk, right?
Yeah.
That around that era?
I think that was that era, yeah.
Yeah, we covered some of that format.
But we weren't doing as much as we were now.
Right, but Reed Duke's Invitational win.
Yep. Yeah.
We covered that.
Yeah, we did in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
That was like 3 years ago. That's horrifying.
Yeah.
This year's basically over. Time goes by fast, kids.
Yeah, Magic ages you fast.
It really does. Look, I remember drafting at the local store 3 times a day, mirror to Darksteel. All right? That's like it was just yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the days.
In what sense?
I just played Magic all day with like my best friends, and we just drafted every day after school.
Yeah. I remember those days too.
Yeah. Do you want to go hang out? No. No, I don't. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go to the mall, and I'm going to get teriyaki chicken from Sakyo, Japan.
You had a very specific day lined out.
That was every day. That was every day.
I did not have that level of planning in my life in my late teens and early 20s.
Well, it's not really so much planning as it just becomes what I'm going to do every day.
Sure.
Go to high school. After high school, go to a local store that was like 10 minutes from high school. Do 2 booster drafts. Then go to the mall, get Sakyo, Japan, come back from the mall, eat the teriyaki chicken while drafting, and hopefully not get my hands dirty. Then, when it's over and my dad calls the store and asks me, why am I not home yet? I go home. I would play Warcraft 3 until like 1, rinse, repeat.
That's not bad. I would wake up, stare at the ceiling, just trying to figure out, what was going on for a little while. And then I would probably roll out of bed and go play Magic Online for a little bit.
Nice.
Put on a pot of coffee.
This is when you were 17?
No.
This was when you were in high school?
It's a little later.
Yeah.
A little later on.
These
But
are
not that much later on.
These are my
19?
high school days. These were high school days.
19, maybe?
I also, I had to remember I had to trick my dad into thinking I was asleep when I was playing Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
That was the other trick. I would stay up late at night with my friend Greg Wozniak, and we would play Warcraft. 2v2 ladder matches. I was the anchor.
Eugene and I spent a lot of high school playing the deck mirror.
So you've told me.
His deck had Sarah Angel Moat. I had Deadly Insect the Abyss, but otherwise very similar decks.
Okay.
We played a lot of that mirror match. We just spent our summers just disrupting Scepter to each other, and it was just as happy as I can ever remember being.
Wouldn't trade it for the world.
Not trade it for the world.
Tyler Winn going to start with a couple of lands here for his Jeskai deck. He's got a Mystic Monastery and a Shivan Reef. Czech is going to sacrifice a Bloodstained Mire to go along with his Caves of Koilos. So we'll have a swamp or a mountain on the way here in just a moment. Some people wondering on Twitter what race I played in Warcraft 3. I was an Orcish man.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of the Tauren. Mountain, the weapon of choice here for Matthew Czech. See what he's got to do on turn 2 here, assuming he has something to do. Haven't seen a ton of Jeskai this weekend.
We saw a little bit, and there is a copy in the top 8.
Yep. Here's a Soulfire Grandmaster.
Not a lot, but what we've seen has been performing very well. Tyler Winn possibly with an opportunity here to make the top 8.
Is it Mana Shredder time?
Yes. If someone's reaching for their life total.
Yes, yes it is. That's not Kevin Jones casting that card either. That's Tyler Winn. He's getting in for 3 in the air. Check will draw. Just a third land, pass the turn back. Curious to see how long this Mana Strider will stick around.
This is not a good sign, because I think if Matthew can kill this thing, he's going to do it while Tyler's tapped out.
Well, how about another Mantis Rider?
Or he's trying to trap for Bile Blight. Who knows? Ah, no,
I don't think so. No.
No Bile Blight.
Who knows? We know. That thing would be dead. This is just, both these games have been pretty simple and straightforward.
Yeah. So, Matt, you...
I would do something to those.
Yeah.
Or they're going to kill you. Here's a Draconic Roar. Going to reveal Kolaghan.
And my preference would have been for Matthew to do this while Tyler was tapped out.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to be gained by waiting.
And something can certainly go wrong.
Tyler is going to enter combat and attack you, so might as well just do it straight away.
No mountain here for Czech. He'll sacrifice Bloodstained Mire, going to go down to 5.
And there's only so many times you can get hit by Mana Strider. Even if you kill it, too much damage has been done, especially with these Jeskai decks that have as much burn as Tyler's does.
The number for me is once. I get hit more than once with the Mantis Rider, I'm all done here.
I like drawing the analogs to other formats, you know, Den Protector, Snapcaster Mage, and Mantis Rider kind of feels like Goblin Guide, where the expectation is you get hit once, and if you get anything beyond that, it feels like a free win.
Yeah, it really does. Oh, Kolaghan just got countered. That's not going to work. In for 3. Tyler got a Lethal Burn spell. Yep, Lightning Strike's going to do it. These have been 2 very simple, straightforward games for both sides of things. And we are all tied up here between Czech and Winn. Mardu Dragons, Jeskai Aggro heading to game number 3.
Both players have played a marquee 3-mana threat that was not killed, and that was the game.
I will note here, as players do get shuffled for game 3, both players are wearing hats. One of those hats is better than the other. Just going to put that out there.
Yep.
You digest that however you want to. Someone knows who the best basketball team is.
I don't know what's going on
Go, Tyler.
With Matthew's hat here, so I can't.
Go, Tyler. He knows. In the meantime, however, we will quickly talk about the Star City Games YouTube page, where you can find the replay of this match. And truthfully, a lot of the matches this weekend, we've had a lot of fun matches to watch.
Yeah, there's been a lot to go back and watch, and a lot of content goes up on this page. Versus Series content, premium archives, archives of all the Open Series events and invitationals, and there's some content that's exclusive to the YouTube page, like unboxings. Best of all, this is all free. You can head over to youtube.com/StarCityGames. Get signed up today.
getting ready here for game number 3. This Jeskai build, pretty popular. You'll find that Winn only does have 3 copies of Jace, where we saw Jerry Thompson with 4. But I think one thing that we've noticed this weekend, and you know, we're trying to learn just like everybody at home who's watching this, and some people are just learning for their FNMs and their local IQs. Some people are getting ready for a Pro Tour in a couple of weekends. Jace has been legit.
In the same way that Goblin Rabblemaster has looked good on camera so far this weekend, because there is not a lot of red removal floating around, it feels like, at least in this tournament. Jace is going to be good for the same reason. If there's a lot of mid-range matchups going on, Jace seems awesome. And especially in these Jeskai builds, whether it's aggro, whether it's the token builds with Ascendancy, the flashback effect on that card is no joke. When you look at Matthew Tickle's deck, for example, the Rally the Ancestors deck, Jace was in there kind of as just an early looter. There's some flashback action going on there and some attack suppression, but that's incidental. In these Jeskai decks, the flashback on Jace is extremely powerful.
I was just really impressed with it. First of all, it's so easy to flip.
Yeah.
So easy to flip. I mean, it reminds me so much of the way that you kind of described Treasure Cruise in Legacy, which is you're just playing a normal game of Magic and then just incidentally, okay, I'll cruise. It's not like I'll play, you know, all these cards to get stuff in my graveyard and then I'll cruise. It's like, I'm just playing some Magic here.
There's nothing in Tyler's deck to suggest he's making any particular effort to get Jace flipped. You know, he's playing all the normal cards you would expect to see in a Jeskai deck. Really, the only card you can point to in these decks that you've seen an uptake of in this weekend because of Jace is Ojutai's Command. Yeah. And that's because you want to get Jace out of your graveyard, untap, and flip it.
At Johnny Grapes has noticed that neither player is wearing a Bulls hat, and that's because they don't wear hats of losers.
I'm not getting, it's the off season. I'm not getting him involved in this.
That's why he's not wearing that hat.
Though I will say about Jace, something that is noteworthy about this card compared to Snapcaster Mage, because that's the parallel a lot of people draw. Jace is very, very poor with counterspells. You can't flash the back to good effect. So that's why I like Jace a lot in these Jeskai builds, where you look at the spells. It's Lightning Strike, Stoke the Flames, Valorous Stance, Wild Slash, Dig Through Time, all proactive cards. Even something like Ojutai's Command can be used proactively. It doesn't just have to be a counterspell.
Proactive card for what looks to be a proactive Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Because even though we oftentimes draw the parallel of, you know, the minus effect when it's flipped is a Snapcaster Mage, it's not exactly Snapcaster Mage.
It's sorcery speed.
Yeah.
If Snapcaster Mage didn't have Flash, it would be a very different card.
I'm curious to see if it would be even that good of a card.
I think it would still show up in decks that played, you know, Lightning Bolts or Path to Exiles, you know, but it wouldn't be as good in, you know, Mana Lake Remand style decks. Or Cantrips, good with Ponder still, you know, but it definitely loses its play with counterspells.
Patrick, apparently Matthew Check is playing some Kamigawa Basic Mountains. Are you a fan of those Basic Mountains?
I mean, Kamigawa was one of the sets that I played the most. I played so much of that format, for better or worse. So I have some nostalgia as that being sort of my peak investment in Magic. Art-wise, I put them in the middle of the pack.
Okay.
They're not bad. They're not great. They're not bad.
That was a good time to be playing Magic. I like them.
I think that if we went back, we would remember those times a lot less fondly. The same is true of most things. But I think it's especially the case with Champions of Kamigawa block Magic.
I have fond memories.
It's just good. Part of it is just, it's a thing that surrounds a part of your life that's really fun. You know, you're playing a lot of tournament Magic, you're driving with your buddies, go play FNM, you're excited about the PTQ. Afterwards, you go to Denny's, you know, you celebrate the people who win, you go over matches you lost, everyone has a very good time. And to some extent, the cards are sort of on the periphery of that whole experience.
I'm going to guess here. This is just a guess in the dark. At Denny's, you're a moons over my hammy kind of guy.
Eggs over easy toast, hash browns, black coffee.
All right, so the answer was no.
No.
Okay.
Moons over my hammy, that's pretty fancy.
It's an egg sandwich, man. It's just got a dumb name.
Little fancy. Not trying to impress anyone when I go to Denny's, man.
Nomad Outpost versus a Mystic Monastery is how we're going to start off game number 3 for these two players. Whoever wins this one, they'll be in the top 8. Check with land number 2 is a Haven of the Spirit Dragon into a Seeker of the Way. Winn will untap and draw. One thing that Winn does have going for his deck, and it's something I like quite a bit, is just the use of Wild Slash. I think Wild Slash is a pretty underplayed card right now.
Definitely. I mean, it's been definitely in these kind of matchups is really important. The problem is it's not very productive against Obzon.
That is the issue, without question.
Though, if Nissa's on the uptake, I'm not saying that Wild Slash is a great card against Nissa, but you at least get to cash it in for something.
Yep. Thoughtseize. We're going to sacrifice a Flooded Strand in response. Looking at a 19, and we'll see what happens here.
I am not a huge fan of Thoughtseize in this matchup. Life total on Matthew's side is at a premium, and Tyler's deck is pretty redundant.
So it feels like maybe a burn spell's on the way. Lightning Strike or something. Yep. That'll take care of Seeker of the way. Now we can see what Tyler Winn is working with. You see a Disdainful Stroke, 2 copies of Goblin Rabblemaster appears, along with a couple of lands, an island, a plains, and a Flooded Strand.
So this is going to be a test of Matthew's removal.
Yep.
If you say and take Disdainful Stroke, it means he's got a very powerful hand with multiple removal spells and some threat to play on the top end. If he's got a normal quality hand, we're probably just taking Goblin Rabblemaster out of here.
Decisions here for check. I'm going to go with the Rabblemaster. Keep in mind, Check hasn't played a land just yet. Does have a couple of temples to choose from. He'll go with Temple of Triumph. Still has a Temple of Silence in hand.
I think Matthew tanking on the scry here.
Yep. Expect some lengthy decisions here from both players. Is playing for top 8, man.
Yep.
Last game of the tournament for one of these two.
Matthew slowed down a little bit there.
Yeah. It's understandable. Winn going to search up a plains. And we'll have a Rabblemaster, I think, on the way here in just a second. Goblin will be joining it, in for 1. Check will go down to 17. Bloodstained going to get sacrificed here if I check. 16. Swampert Mountain on the way. Remember, Tyler Winn does have a copy of Disdainful Stroke in hand at this point. Check already knows that because of the Thoughtseize.
Kind of an interesting jam because this is a good spot to play something like Thunderbreak Regent when the shields are down in Disdainful Stroke, but it means you are committed to taking the hit from Rabblemaster or trading the next turn. It'll be interesting to see what Matthew wants to do here if he has the choice between a removal spell and casting a 4-mana play.
Looks like Thunderbreak Regent is in hand, so that's what's going to be deployed by Check. Winn going to quickly untap, take a draw step. Token, beatdowns, trigger. Rabblemaster is a 4-power creature. Thunderbreak Regent looks like it's going to block a token.
Well, if Matthew has a removal spell for the Rabblemaster, this is fine.
Okay.
Then he kills the Rabblemaster. He's attacking for 4 in the air against 1 on the ground, and things look pretty good.
There's an island for Tyler. He'll pass the turn back. This can represent a couple of different things. Remember, this is a deck that does have Ochitai's Command in it. Check will start off with a Temple. Take a look at that top card. Looks like it's headed to the bottom from the scry.
Matthew can't spend his turn casting something expensive unless he's committed to holding the Thunderbreak Regent back on defense and trading with the Rattle Master. It's just too much damage to take in this spot.
There's Rabble Master for him. Can't Disdainful Stroke that. It'll bring a Goblin along with it. Beatdowns. In for 5. Winn going to go down to 13. Check will pass the turn back. We're going to go Tyler Winn's way.
Big sigh of relief there from Matthew. I mean, there's a Wild Slash or a Lightning Strike or some sort of removal spell there on the Rabble Master. The race starts looking really bad, but if Matthew gets to trade Rabble Master for Rabble Master, he's in great shape.
Temple of Epiphany. Top card went to the bottom. You'll get a trigger from Rabble Master. Going to come into the red zone with the Goblins and the Rabble Master itself.
So this is an interesting spot for Matthew because you would imagine if Tyler had a burn spell in hand, you would have seen it on the Rabble Master in an attack.
Yep.
So if Tyler's willing to attack, you can. If you're a Matthew spot, you can almost talk yourself into saying, I should block a token here and turn this into a pure race.
That's what it looks like he's going to do. By making that block, this is him basically saying, I can win this damage race. Check goes down to 6.
Yeah, he's just working on the assumption right now that there's no red cards of note in Tyler's hand. And if that's the case, he's firmly in control of the damage race.
Maybe just sensing some weakness in Tyler's hand. He thought sees them. He knows at least some of the contents with the Disdainful Stroke. So you have to imagine the thought process is, I don't think you have much of anything.
The danger here is that Tyler now has the mana and cards in graveyard required to cast Dig Through Time. So if Matthew attacks and isn't willing to play a 4-mana spell out of respect for Disdainful Stroke, that gives Tyler the opportunity to cast Dig Through Time. That may actually compel Matthew to play the Thunderbreak Regent in his hand right now, because if Tyler casts a Disdainful Stroke, that means he's short on mana and cards in graveyard to cast Dig Through Time after the fact.
All very true. Seeker of the Way.
I know you don't like the idea of having your dragon countered by Disdainful Stroke, but this is a critical turn for Matthew. Because if Tyler has Dig, he gets to do it. And the Thunderbreak Regent's not doing very much else. You get to trade it for 2 mana at some point in this game. It's just what turn do you decide to make that decision? And if Matthew's got nothing else going on...
There's not even a dig here from Tyler.
Yeah, he's got nothing.
Yeah, he just drew a copy of Stoke the Flames. So maybe he's got a little more than we think.
But that was I think that play was fairly dangerous from Matthew if he had nothing else to do this turn.
Yeah.
Because the door was open for Tyler to resolve Dig, and with Matthew at 6, Tyler doesn't need to find a whole lot to be able to end the game.
Now I think Tyler's trying to figure out, how can I use this Stoke the Flames to maybe steal this game? Is there anything that I can do? Can I bluff something?
Well, he's going to get overwhelmed on the way back. He can attack and hope that Matthew screws up the blocks.
Might be the only hope that he has. Everybody's coming in, it looks like. Block there. And it looks like Thunderbreak Regent's going to block a token. Check is going to fall to 5. Tyler will have to pass the turn back. Quick update for you at home. Jeff Hoagland, Chris Anderson, they both won their matches this round. So they're both 12-3. Likely good enough for top 8.
Jeff particularly, very solid tiebreakers.
Before the attack step, Stoke the Flames is going to take care of Goblin Rabble Master. That means it doesn't get to bring a Goblin along with it. And what that means right now is that Matthew Check is a point short of lethal. Just like that Stoke the Flames was a point short of lethal by Tyler Winn. Now we get to see how Check wants to attack here. He'll attack Winn down to 2. That's Thunderbreak region. We know there's a disdainful stroke over there for Tyler, so he's going to cast that immediately. Now, is there a way for Tyler Winn to win this turn?
Dig through time.
That's a start.
Gets him a look at several cards.
He'll draw a card. He's got all lands. Matthew Check is going to win this match here over Tyler Winn. 2-1. He's got some friends behind him. We're pretty happy for him. He's going to move on to 12-3, and it looks like we're going to have Mardu Dragons in the top 8 this evening.
Congratulations to Matthew. A pretty tight third game there, and not a lot of margin for error, but Tyler with just a little bit too many lands there in that spot, and Matthew able to